In his first interview, he realized that the self he... This is the second interview with a young man who reports he has leukemia, but is in a state of remission. In his first interview, he realized that the self he had at age 7 was a very precious self, and that social expectations caused him to lose it. He also approached the feelings of anger he has felt about what has been done to this self and to him. But he has not yet expressed his anger. Now the second session begins. Okay. Where do you want to start this morning?
Well, I don't know. I was thinking that when we talked earlier about the anger, been thinking a great deal about that.
I've thought a lot about what you had to say about that.
Right. You know, and I'm not sure that that I really don't want to be angry, you know, and I'm not sure if being angry now is a part of the process, and I've got to do that, but I'd like to, I guess my mind, academically or something, you know, and something other than emotion or whatever, would like to tell me that I'd like to not be angry and to skip over that part if that's a part of the process, you know. But I'm not sure I can do that, you know.
Your mind says sort of, oh, cool it, don't get into such strong emotion.
For sure. It almost seems like that whatever is happening in my environment or whatever happened in my environment is pulling me into, again, that kind of a trap, that kind of a system that I don't particularly care, you know, if you know what I mean.
I think I get that your mind is taking the place of the system and saying, now, play it right, do the proper thing.
Right.
But some other part of you is saying, yeah, but there's some anger there.
For sure.
There's
for
some
sure.
real anger
Right.
there.
It's almost like in this country, and I've always felt like this, you only have about two options, you know. When you deal with race, you're either a racist or you're an anti-racist. And that doesn't really seem to be the kind of thing that I'm, you know, I don't really care to be an anti-racist, if you know what I mean, anymore. And I don't want to be a reflection of any other larger society at all. I really don't want to.
You'd like to get in touch with what's going on in you, not some label or other.
For sure. I think that I could probably trust that a lot better than trusting what's happening or what has happened. And when I think about that, when I think about all of that, you know, things that we talked about, I think that that's worse than the leukemia. You know? I know that may sound very strange or whatever, but a lot of things have been strange, you know, since this time. And what has happened to me didn't just start when I found out that I, you know, was going to die, kind of thing.
Let me see if I understand that you feel as though what the culture and people and so on have done to you has really caused you more suffering than the leukemia. Is that what you're saying?
I think so. I think so. And to some extent that is mild. Like, for instance, you know, I don't know what would happen if I had died or if I will or whatever, but I certainly know what's happening now and what happened. You see? And to some extent, that kind of leukemia, that kind of deterioration of the body is the same kind of thing that happened to my mind. And, you know, it's
really what the culture did to you was give you a cancer of the mind.
Yeah. I really want to say that, and I really want to, and I believe it, you know. And I guess that part of me that's my culture, and it's a part of the total, is saying that it's not all that good to be angry, you know, because militancy is frowned upon or whatever, you know. And I guess I'm using militant in my sense because of it's just traditionally, you know, when blacks become angry, they're not angry, they're militant. You know what I mean?
I know.
So,
another label.
For sure. Yeah. And there's nobody that I can put my finger on, you know, that person that started the whole thing, that process, you know, because that would probably be a lot better for me, you know, than I probably would try to do that person in.
Yeah, if you could pin it on one person, then your rage would be justified, and you could really get after that person.
But how do you blame somebody else is sick? You know? And I think that people that do that to other people, or at least when it was done to me, they're really sick, you know? And here I am, you know, trying to, you know, I don't know if it's forgiving, I don't know if I'm sounding confused or whatever, maybe, you know, but trying to accept their sickness, you know, and at the same time, you know, I really haven't had the opportunity to let anybody accept mine. Or maybe I haven't given it to them, but...
Yeah, maybe you haven't given it to them.
Right.
That's what I sense is going on now, that you feel there's so many reasons why I really shouldn't express my anger. I'll talk about all those reasons.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know, really. You know, maybe I'll just be angry one day, and maybe I'll really feel better or whatever, you know. And when I smile, I'm you know, I'm smiling, but there's a lot of, and I'm sure you know that there's a lot of anger there, you know. But it's not my nature to be angry. It's not my nature to be angry, but I feel angry.
Yeah, so I hear you explaining that that's not my nature to be angry. It's just that I am angry right now.
For sure. For sure. And to try to be angry in a productive way. I don't know how you be angry in a productive way, you know, in terms of... It's like now when I respond to people, you know, when you encounter people, you know, whether it's in the street, whether it's in a professional situation or whatever, you know, people send out certain messages, and no matter what they're saying or whatever, there's certain kinds of messages that I'm getting, you know. It's saying that, hey, you know, that isn't for me, kind of thing, you know. And as before, you know, I'd like to work with that and like to try to communicate without alienating people or whatever. But now, you know, I'm ending up saying, you know, like, hey, that's a bunch of crap. You know, don't tell me about the way that I should do it, or give me all that nonverbal stuff about saying that I'm okay, but by nonverbally saying, hey, you know, you're really not okay, you know. And I don't want to hear that kind of stuff anymore.
I get what you're saying, and I also feel quite strongly that I want to say, it's okay with me if you're angry here.
But you know, it's hard to know how to be angry, you know.
Sure. I'm not saying you have to be. I'm just saying it's okay with me. If you feel like being angry, you can be angry.
You really believe that?
Damn right.
Not sure how to respond to that at all, you know, because a part of that anger is, you know, the hurt. And maybe maybe what's happening is that if I become angry and I really let it hang out, that I really will see how hurt I am. And you know, that just came to me as you were talking, that, you know, maybe...
Perhaps at a deeper level, you're afraid of the hurt that you may experience if you let yourself experience the anger.
For sure. Really? You know, I keep getting these blocks, you know, these, you know, when I come to something like that, you know, because, you know, to me that's a revelation, and I'm not really sure that risking being angry, I guess, or something like that, you know. You know, losing control, maybe.
Yeah.
You know.
do get that, this realization that maybe what I'm most afraid of is the hurt that I might experience. Makes you more cautious about whether you should or could really let go of the anger.
I really don't know. I think that
It's a risk.
right, and it's, you know, I haven't really thought about that before, and
It's new.
yeah, it's. I guess I would be, and I really would admit openly that I'm hurt. I said that I've been hurt, and I think you know that I feel I've been hurt, but to show that, you know.
To show it, and I guess to let yourself sort of experience it, that I guess would be difficult.
Yeah, I don't know. It's as scary, I think, as the possibility of that I had before, more than before, about dying, you know. And maybe, you know, just I was really scared because of the symptoms, you know, of you know, not being able to walk and not being able to see and things like that, you know, and having to depend on somebody, you know. And for God's sake, you know, having to show somebody that I'm hurt, and how can I trust that to somebody, you know?
Seems like a horribly big risk.
Yeah, it is. Seems to be getting bigger and bigger as we talk.
Suppose I really exposed to somebody the fact that I'm deeply, deeply hurt. That in a sense would be comparable to having to be dependent on someone when you can't walk or something like that.
Right. Yeah. I'd like to just to say it's my conditioning. That's one way out of it, isn't it? But that isn't really acceptable to me now because I feel that. I feel like that I have to express that hurt or whatever. But, you know, I can say that. You know, and I know right down here, you know, I'm saying that, and when I say it, you know, it kind of keeps something down here, you know.
You're saying it from here up.
For sure. For sure. I don't know how to do that exactly or whatever. It's like I don't drink a lot, you know, because I don't really want to experience that kind of, you know, alcohol to me is a depressant anyway. And, you know, and that's about the only thing I really like to get out, you know, and maybe saying, you know, like, I love somebody. I gave of myself. I did the best I could, and it wasn't good enough, you know, and, you know, demand on top of demand and everything like that, you know, it's just, you know, shit, you know, it's like that I'd like to be able, and I said this the other day, or when I was talking to you, that I'd like to be able to say that, yeah, I was screwed over and I got hurt and everything else like that or whatever, but it's almost an admission in a way, on another level of saying that they got the best of me, you know? And I really don't want, you know, I really don't want anybody historically to have gotten the best of me, but they did. They did. They beat the hell out of me.
You don't want to say I really was defeated at times, and yet that's the truth.
They did. You know, having it being all right to be defeated and be beaten, and I don't know if there's any value in, you know, maybe to myself, admitting it to myself or whatever, you know, but, you know, I'm really finding out I got a lot of hang-ups in terms of that line that I hadn't thought of before, you know, in terms of, because I don't want to be beaten, but I was, you know, because I think when you are hurt, that's being beaten, except, you know, and I allowed myself to, and I don't regret caring, and I don't regret loving or whatever, but, you know, like I'm a kid, you know, I'm a kid in a way. I like to be loved too. I like to be, some reciprocity. And I'm going to start, I think, expecting that. You know, without being cold or anything like that. But I have to, you know, start getting something back in return.
You want love to be mutual.
For sure. For sure. And I don't want to get in a situation like I'm in now, you know, where I'm afraid to show anybody that I'm hurt. You know, scared to death, terrified.
Something really awful about letting anyone know that I'm hurt.
Well,
I'm hurting.
Sure. It's, you know, it has something to do with being a man. It has something to do with the race thing. You know, it has something to do with a relationship. Maybe the failure of a relationship. A lot of things, you know, a father not being in the home with his children. You know, really feel like being a victim. I don't know how to get that up at all. Every time I get close to that, I take a drink of water. I don't know if that actually keep it down there or what.
Maybe that'll keep it from coming up above this level.
For sure. I don't know. It's now, it really isn't what I want either. You know, I wanted to get out and stay out, you know.
I would like to let it out.
Yeah. So maybe if you have any exorcism type powers or whatever, that maybe you can just do that and then I'll be free of that, you know. Because that's what it feels like. It feels like there's something there, you know, that I really, and I've identified it. I think I've identified it, you know. Because I know there's sometimes when there's just such a big lump in my throat, you know, and then I explain, give myself a lot of reasons why I shouldn't be feeling like that, you know.
A big lump of hurt, though. And how to let that hurt come out in the open. How to let it emerge and be out here instead of way down locked in here.
Right. Yeah. You know, I never believe in cookbook answers to anything. Even when I cook, I don't use a cookbook. I just don't believe in it. I think, but I'd really like to be able for somebody to tell me to, you know, maybe how to do that in about 5 minutes and be through with it so I can live the rest of my life in peace. You know what I mean?
Sure. It'd be awfully nice if somebody could say, now if you do this and this, all your hurt will come out and it'll be gone forever.
For sure.
Be great, wouldn't it?
For sure. I have a suspicion that maybe you know some things that I don't know.
No. I'm not holding out on you.
Yeah, I believe that. I feels like I'm holding out on myself, you know, but hell, you know. I don't know.
It goes back to some of those things you're mentioning. A man doesn't admit he's hurt. A black man especially doesn't admit that he's been hurt by anything. A father doesn't admit he's been hurt by being away from his children. Just too many things that say, no. Don't let it out. But inside there's the hurt. A phrase came to me a minute ago that if you could let that out, I don't know if this will ring true with you or not, if you could let that out, it would be the voice of the victim. I don't know if that makes any sense or not. But
yeah. And I don't know what, you know, I don't know if I have any control over that, you know, of what would happen, you know. It's like a friend of mine the other day who helped me through my illness and everything. He says, you know, when I encountered another person that, you know, very intelligent sort that was talking a bunch of intellectual garbage about feelings and things like that, that I really wanted to just, you know, I really saw the society, the culture right in him, you know, and I really wanted to just to kind of deck him. And that's something that's not my nature or whatever, but like I just really wonder what...
Just like to have sucked him.
Yeah. And my friend said, you know, one of these days, he says, if you don't get it together or something, he says, not that if you don't get it together, but he says, one of these days you're going to really lose it, you know. You know what I mean? It's that I want to get rid of all that stuff that was done to me and not have to hear all that other stuff, or to be able to deal with it in a very constructive kind of a way, you know. But still it grinds me because of all the other stuff that's happened to me. And when I see other people doing it to other people or whatever, it grinds me. It makes me angry, you know. And I would think that in those situations I've begun to kind of strike out, you know, or like, you know, protecting somebody else or fighting for somebody else or whatever. And like, I'm not sure what I did for myself, though, those years that all that happened to me or whatever. And if I could cry and have it be all right.
That's what I was thinking.
That
I
would
was just thinking if you could only cry.
Yeah, if it, you know, but that's a trip, you know, that's a trip. Like,
First place a man doesn't cry.
yeah, for sure, for sure. That's a fact.
But I guess you're saying there are times when you have that lump in your throat and you sure as hell feel like crying.
For sure, for sure. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know, maybe going to a movie of one of those old, you know, movies, dramas or something like that, right? So I can cry, you know, and have an excuse to cry, you know, but crying for myself, I'm not sure that, just not sure that's going to be constructive, you know.
I don't know, you say you're not sure whether crying for yourself is constructive. I feel also you're afraid of crying for yourself.
I may be. I may be. Because if I feel like crying and I don't or whatever, there's some things that are, you know. But you see, that's a part of it too, you know. It's, you know, and I hate to keep using these things of, you know, we're just being so conditioned not to, you know. You know, from a little thing of, you know, like, oh, you know, big little men or big boys or whatever don't cry and...
Probably your 7-year-old could cry.
Yeah, for sure. I cried. I remember crying, but I cried alone. I never let anybody see me cry. You know? I wonder how many people have seen me cry, probably 2 or 3 in the whole world. It's kind of interesting, you know? I remember about living with my ex-wife or whatever, she cried all the time. She cried getting up in the morning and you know, just crying for crying. You know, I asked her sometimes about why she cried, and she just said, I don't know, she just wanted to, felt good. I don't know if that was healthy or whatever, but it probably was a lot more healthier than what I did.
Probably is better than never letting anyone see you cry.
Right. There's just so many other ways to do it, you know, that I've learned. You know, like working hard, not thinking about it, you know, not thinking about it.
Just saying that all the sorrow that you feel for yourself and for what's happened to you and all that, that doesn't really exist. That's just, you're too busy to have any thoughts of that.
For sure.
But the sorrow is still there.
For sure. And I really don't know how to deal with that. I really don't. I really don't. You know, just really giving so much of yourself, and it's just really crazy. Too much.
If you did cry, what would some of the themes of that crying be?
just, you know, all those, you know, hours that, you know, I spent away from my family, and then I gave up my family and didn't see my children grow. And, you know, really wanted that to be for some kind of a higher level, some kind of a cause, you know. But not to have that, to see anything, any benefit that I did. You know, all of that work, I mean, hours and hours, and it's just incredible. And I think that would be one, you know, I was saying, damn it, why in the hell did I spend so much time? Why did I spend so much time, you know? The leukemia, the everything that happened to me or whatever would be probably deserved if one person, life would have been changed or something, you know, and like, and maybe it has or whatever, but I think that I don't trust that it was worth it. You see?
Yeah. You invested a whole lot of caring, a whole lot of yourself, and you feel real sorrow that maybe nothing came of that.
And I'd also like to just kind of cry for my father-in-law, too, that was killed before about 6 months before I got the leukemia. I'd like to really tell him that you know, that I really loved him a great deal.
So you're telling me, in place of telling him, maybe you could even speak to him, I don't know, but at any rate, you really would like to tell him, I loved you, you know that? I loved you.
Well, I really would, you know, the situation that we started out, I was married, and we married somebody of a different race, and we fought it out tooth and nail or whatever, but yet we loved each other, and we fished together, and he was straight with me, you know. He had to other people, a very cold way, you know, by God, this is the way it's going to be, and so forth. But I saw him when he was hurt, too. And when he was killed in 1975 in a hunting accident, it just really took all of it, you know. Because he helped me to try to get out of that stuff. He's saying, hey, you know, what are you doing? You know, what do you really want to do? And at the time, I wanted to, you know, to open my own restaurant or whatever. And so he was going to help me finance that restaurant, you know. And so a week later, he was killed, 1 week. And so we were getting so close, but that I really never told him that, hey, Dad, you know, hey, Dad, I love you. I really love you. And we told each other, I guess, in some ways or whatever, but it's not the same as saying, you know, saying, hey, I really love you. I really care.
You feel real sad that you never gave him a straight message on that, I love you.
Because he was straighter with me than a lot of people, you know? And now to be taken away from all of that. You see, because it's only been, I don't know, what, 8 months or so since ceased all communication with my family, you know, or my wife's family that I'd loved and I'd cared for, and then I buried my father-in-law. And that was it. And then even the family began to take on those same things of the culture, you know.
Things began to fall apart for you there.
For sure, for sure. You know, and lately, I don't know, falling apart, or at least my being able to see that it really wasn't true. It wasn't real. I wasn't getting anything back. I wasn't getting any nourishment back, you know. You know, smiles and polite kisses and things like that, you know. That is, you know, part of the hurt. You know, I'd rather for somebody to say, you know, I think you're a lousy SOB or whatever, as opposed to saying, hello, dear, how are you? You know, you know.
When the real message perhaps is, I think you're a lousy SOB.
Right, right, you know. Yeah, so there's, you know, there's a few
so
things.
part of the sorrow would be for your father-in-law. You'd really weep for him.
Yeah, I think I would, you know. And just maybe I still think that I really wish that I could, you know, just say, hey, you know, you guys, you really don't realize what you did to me, you know. Because for a while I just, you know, saying, well, you know, racist, terrible, blah, blah, blah. But that doesn't say anything, you know, because it doesn't say how I really feel, you know. But they wouldn't understand it. They wouldn't understand how a black person could be hurt, you know, because if you don't accept a person as human, how can you think about, you know, like it's like thinking a dog could be hurt or whatever, you know, people that don't have dogs and don't understand it, you know.
But you'd get some satisfaction out of saying, you people don't realize how much you hurt me. They might not be able to hear that message, but you'd get some satisfaction out of expressing that, out of letting yourself know, letting others know that, God, I've been hurt. I've been wounded.
I just don't think I could do that because I just don't think that I just don't trust. No. No. I wouldn't do it because I just wouldn't want to give them the satisfaction, you know.
No.
It's like I feel like, you know, by saying, you know, and maybe that is my feeling. But I've had too many times, you know, when, you know, opened up a little bit or whatever and someone says, you know, squash.
So there are probably loads of people you wouldn't dare open up to on that. But I guess you're opening up to me to say, yes, but I have been really wounded badly by a lot of people.
For sure. Just maybe think that you can understand that a little bit in terms of about hurt and that, you know, that I'm a person and you know, I'm a person. And I don't really want that denied to me, you know, ever again. You know, that I could really get angry. I don't, you know, that's not going to happen to me. You know, in a way, you know, and I don't want to love anybody like I did my father-in-law again. And for God's sake, you know, that's painful, but I know that's terribly sick too. That you know, you have to love, you have to continue to love people or whatever. But at that time, it was the only thing that was productive. It was the only thing that was something that was, you know, this Fromm talks about biophilic. It was growth. It was nourishing. And that was the only thing, and that was just taken away from me. And it was taken away from me just
like that.
You know, it was just really strange, you know.
So that's been a hurt and a shock, and makes you feel, I can't risk myself loving somebody else like that because that might disappear somewhere or other.
For sure. For sure. For sure. I certainly don't want any more in-laws. Be they whatever color. I'm not sure I want them now, you know. And I think that's a part of it. You know, more so than risking loving somebody just because of the death I know is inevitable. But it's that other collection of things around it or whatever. But you know, it's crazy.
It's what?
It's crazy to love, you know. It's just like loving a pet rock or something, you know, or something. Nothing, you know.
A love goes out from me, but nothing comes back.
Right. And I'm not so sure that I want it to work like that again, you know. And maybe maybe saying that, I don't know, maybe, you know, calling, say, hey, I really was hurt and everything like that or whatever. Maybe that would be a start or whatever. But I just don't really trust that they really understand that. I don't really. It took my wife who lived with me for 7 years, you know, after her left maybe 6, 7 months to understand that I was hurt, that I was desperate.
Do you feel there's so little chance of anyone else really understanding you?
That sounds kind of, yeah. Well, it's a little chance for that group of people understanding me. And I believe it. I really believe it. You know, it would just it would be like me trying to understand or to tell Dick Nixon or something about my feelings, and I just don't think he could relate to that. You know. And I'm using, and I'm really serious about that example because he's so far away from me and my reality. And that family, you know, I found out it was so far away from me and my reality that, you know, it was insane, you know. It was really insane, you know. So I think at one level I feel okay for loving them.
You feel?
Okay for loving them.
I see.
But I don't feel okay for sharing any more with them. And sharing that hurt is just, you know, and maybe sharing it with other people would be okay. But I know I'm moving away from the other two, you know. It's really important to me right now. And I don't know, maybe I won't. I'm not rushing it, it just seems to want to get out and jump out or whatever, but you know, it's really, must have really gone through, my body really must have gone through some changes or whatever because, you know, something there is just keeping it down. And I know all those reasons, but I can't seem to muster that power to get that out, you know, to really, you know.
It's still too much locked in.
Yeah, for sure. But it really helps, you know, because it's just, you know, it's incredible, you know. This is the first time I've talked to anybody that, you know, that I haven't really been in control. To some extent, I've really given up a lot of control to you.
Sort of letting things loose rather than
for sure.
keeping them under your control.
For sure.
And that's a new experience.
A very new experience for me. Very new experience. And maybe, I don't know if it's just not, just, it's a function of that too, you know. Or something, you know. Things are rattling around in my head now, this kind of thing, you know. But all the other, it's just bullshit, and like, I have been hurt, and I really don't want to get involved anymore in terms of with people that can't return love and can't accept people. I just don't really want to get involved in it anymore. I'm sick and tired, sick of it.
Sounds as though you're more accepting of yourself as a person who is vulnerable, who's been hurt, who is hurting, and who wants love, who doesn't want it all to be a one-way street of giving love. You want love back in return.
Yeah. And I want to be able to feel and to cry, and not to be afraid of crying, and not to be afraid of the. I want to be able, and I'm going to work for that. I really want to work for that. I know I do. You know, I just have this thing. You know, if I trust the doctors, I'd have them cut me open and get that out. You know, but I don't.
Probably be simpler to have an operation.
Oh yeah. But do you feel that, you know, like I really want to, you know, tell you how hurt I am, but I'm not. I can't tell you.
I understand that. You're as it visualizes in my mind, you're walking all around the edge of that pit, but you're not really letting yourself down into it. So you're letting me know all about it, but not it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, don't know how to do that. You know.
Yeah, I hear you saying, I really want to get to that, but it'll have to be at my pace. I can't force it. I can't, but I do want to get to it.
Yeah, and I want to get to it really fast, you know, because that's the only part of me right now that's really, I really feel that's sick. It's really the cancer. You know, that if I could eliminate that, I could eliminate all of the cancer from my body. I really believe it, you know. And I really blame the way I lived and the stress and everything else like that on the disease. I really do.
You mean you blame the disease on all that stress? That's what you mean,
right?
Yeah.
For sure, yeah. I have to turn around. For sure. I do. I do. And so extent I blame racism. You know, I just don't want to get caught up into that anymore. You know, and I want to continue to give, but I'm just not going to do it the way I did it before. And, I don't know. Yelling sometimes, you know, like when I came in here, I was thinking about yelling, you know, those
Okay.
big, long, you know, but I'm not sure that I want to do that.
You could try it.
You know, I don't know, you know. That wouldn't be cultured.
Standards.
Sure, man, I was really socialized.
You
I
were
was,
brought up right,
oh,
weren't you?
yeah, I learned all of it. All of it.
And still, in spite of yourself, buy a good deal of it.
Yeah. Yeah,
You really don't want to, but still you find
yeah,
you can't do the uncultured thing.
for sure. Yeah, the standards, I guess, and that are really foreign to me, but, you know, the thing that, you know, that I've thought about, you know, and like, you know, it's like, in terms of expressing my anger, whatever comes out in terms of, you know, possible obscenity, you know. You know, like calling somebody a bunch of something or whatever would really, you know, I don't know what it would do, but, you know, I'd really like to do that, you know.
That helps to explain why I feel you've kept your language quite guarded here. I realize
sure.
I haven't used more profanity than you have.
For sure, you know, it's not because, you know, but I don't know. It's just a part of that, you know, like I was just...
You'd like to just tell off the bastard.
Yeah, right, for sure. Oh, my goodness.
You can't even do that?
Oh, it's incredible. I don't know. Phew. I'm getting warm.
Both inside and outside.
Yes, right. I'm getting extremely warm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe I'll be able to do it one day, I guess. Maybe I'll be able to do it. I really haven't used, but see, when I get out of here, I'll use a lot of profanity. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't, you know, just in terms of, you know, like I think I did, you know, when I was really angry talking to my wife and things like that, you know, where I was just, God damn it, and all of that, you know, bastards and some other things, and
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, I was raised properly, you know. Yeah, but I think part of that would be a part of expressing my
Mm-hmm.
feelings and everything like that, you know.
It wouldn't come out in nice, polite language.
No, it wouldn't. It really wouldn't. It really wouldn't. To my teachers that I had, to the family that I had, to a lot of my colleagues, you know, and others. And, but I don't know if I really want to tell them. You know, maybe it's just a part of just being proud
Mm-hmm.
and everything else like that. But at least to myself, I need to get it out and openly. And
Yeah. You may not tell it to them face to face, but you need to get it out of yourself somehow.
mm-hmm. Somehow, yeah. Yeah. Really rotten, and I really feel, you know, really screwed. I really feel
Mm-hmm.
so badly.
The bastards really screwed me.
Yeah, I know. They got me. You know, it's just like being part. I guess that has something to do with being Indian. I guess, you know, just wipe them out. You know, if you don't get them with their bodies, you do it in their mind. You know, and like it happened. You know, and it was real. You know, and and to try to describe that hell to somebody is just the hardest thing. You know. But it's like, you know, just somebody knocking you down.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody coming and stomping on you and spitting on you and everything like that. And like, it's just, you know, and just feeling like garbage.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I have a feeling that people have made me feel like garbage, you know, and like, you know, I'm sure that my friends would say, you know, God, I had everything. But I didn't have everything. I didn't have everything. Certainly didn't have that respect as a person.
But there were a lot of people who, though they may or may not have beaten you physically, treated you in a way that just trampled on you and beat you up and spit on you and made you a nobody, a piece of garbage.
And it won't happen again. Not if I can help it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm really tired of fighting.
Mm-hmm.
Really tired of expending that kind of energy.
Mm-hmm.
Really, it's draining. It's too draining in life. You know. I don't really know what's going to happen in terms of, you know, how I'm going to do that, you know, get it out or whatever, but, you know, and I just don't really want to say, you know, that I'm hurt or whatever, because that isn't even descriptive enough for what really happened.
Yeah. To say a word like that, or several of the words you've used, just isn't at all the same as feeling those feelings inside and really feeling them fully.
It's really I don't know if you saw The Exorcist, but it's you know, that, you know, I remember a scene in that movie where the girl just threw up this green slime, you know, and that's really, it's that, you know, it's that bad, you know, you know, it's that bad. Because I know it now, you know, and that's not a part of me, and my body really wants to reject that. But how to throw that up is...
Yeah, how to vomit up that green slime that's been a part of your experience.
Yeah. Maybe I'm just afraid I'll look horrible, you know, or that I'd look horrible or whatever, expressing that kind of anger, that kind of hurt or whatever.
You wouldn't look civilized, you wouldn't look cultured.
I don't know, you know. I don't really know. But right now, more than getting that out, I think the overriding thing is that I want to keep at least the control, to control that for fear of, you see, I don't really want to get sick again, you know, and like I think the slightest, you know, just by being weak, by submitting to that kind of pain, and somehow bring back my...
You wonder about that, whether if you let out all the hell that you've experienced inside, it might bring back your illness.
And that doesn't sound logical, does it? I know that.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Oh, God. What a... I don't know. God, you know, I feel so beaten. I mean, I feel beaten right now, and I'm not sure why, that in a way that I really got something to say, and it just, you know, and I know I feel better, but maybe I would, you know. I'm really God, I realize I'm talking in circles. I seem to be talking in circles. Does that sound like...
No, not quite. It's more spirals, I think. You're getting, as you say, getting very close. You feel beaten right now, as though if only something could come out, you wouldn't feel beaten.
Yeah. I think that, you know, just that almost turned me into something really inhuman. A really almost let it turn me into something really inhuman.
They damn near made an animal out of you.
Damn near. Damn near. Yeah. So you see that, I don't want that to happen anymore. At all. Not gonna do it to me again.
That's very clear.
No. And I know that doesn't help the other problem, but at least I know that. And I really do know that, you know. Because I don't think anybody has a right to do that to anybody. Nobody, teacher, wife, husband, whatever. And it really wasn't my fault either. And like I'm not the blameless. I'm not without any blame or whatever. But just like somebody took a big goddamn tree and just rammed it up. Oh, so hard to describe, you know.
Took a great big stick and rammed it up your ass? Is that what you're saying?
I didn't say that.
Is that what you meant? That's what I meant.
That's what I meant.
Okay. That's what I want to know, whether I was catching your meaning correctly.
Yeah, for sure. And you know that probably would be painful.
And it's that kind of pain that you've suffered.
Yeah. I just can't let it happen again. I am really, I really don't know how to tell you how badly I've been hurt. I really don't.
Goes beyond words.
Yeah. But I know, it's there, and like maybe I should attend to it a little bit more. But God damn it, just, oof.
You're feeling some of that hurt now.
Yeah, I am. I was thinking about a wino on a street that continues to drink, doesn't have a place to live. And I've seen so many people go by that kind of person, disgusting, don't want to work or whatever. But, I really feel like there may be some reasons. And I know one thing, I'm going to allow that person to be desperate. Because I'm thinking that probably people like that do things out of desperation. And, because I know, I never really had a drinking problem or anything like that, but it's that kind of sensitivity that I've gotten from all of that.
Well, it seems to me that you're feeling that you know what it's like to be in desperation, and you know what it could drive you to, and so maybe that's what's happened to some of them. Something like that.
For sure. For sure. And I think that I think my heart goes out to people like that. People that can't afford to do this or whatever. And because, see, I had a lot of money and, and all left. And, but in a way, I'm happier now, But I really don't know. Not sure really where to go next. But I know that I don't really want that kind of life anymore. That I want to give, I want to help, and I want to talk to people or whatever. And before I do that, I want to get my thing together. And a part of that is just maybe admitting, and I guess maybe admitting that I'm hurt and showing and expressing my hurt or whatever will reaffirm the fact that I'm a person.
Mm-hmm.
Because a part of not, I think, showing that is, you know, putting myself up too high. You know, and that's what that's what everything was.
I don't feel it. I don't hurt. I'm fine.
For sure. But at least I admitted to you that I'm hurt.
Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. And just for a moment there, I felt you really were experiencing that too, really feeling that stick shoved up your ass.
Oh yeah. You know, when how your natural reaction, you know, when you start feeling stuff like that, or at least when I do, I just kind of, you know, I got to put it all out of my mind, bring it down to a different level. Yeah. And I think that's what I'm doing. I keep doing, you know, when I get to the point. You got to bring it to a safe level.
Get that close to the pit, and then you pull away a little.
For sure. You know, is it all right to have everybody else to blame? You know, for your problem, and instead of sharing some of that. But I share it. You know, I think I share that. You know,
I think what you're saying is, I feel as though, damn it, everybody else is to blame. My brain says, no, you probably have a part in it too.
Sure.
But your feelings are.
Yeah. And I guess I hurt myself. I didn't. Other people. Maybe if I can clarify that, I let myself be hurt. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, because I just gave too much. Mm-hmm. You know.
You made yourself vulnerable sometimes.
Really. Mm-hmm. And not sometimes, most of the time.
Most of the time.
You know, by being, you know, just by being, by sharing, by being there, by giving, you know, and really loving. Because I do have that sense of a total, you know, that just, I want to love. That's my nature. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But, you know, I'd really never been this beaten. I never, you know. Never have.
I want to be clear about your meaning. You've never felt so much of being beaten as you do right now? Is that what you're saying?
Well, through this whole thing, you know.
Yeah.
Just beaten, you know, just really beaten. And I think that if I show you how much I've been beaten or whatever, you know, like I'd probably, you know, become nothing in this chair, you know, just, you know.
But you might practically disappear if you really let, you know, how hurt and beaten and awful you feel.
For sure, for sure. You know, I could tell you some times, I mean, it would just, you know, maybe blow you away, you know. Really too much for me. It's really too much for me.
Too much.
I feel like it.
I think you feel as though I've gone about as far as I can go at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, really. When I start smiling, I know I am.
Taking a drink of water.
For sure. Well, you know, but I'm being truthful about it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel too. You've walked around that pit of hurt and pain and beatenness, and you've felt some of it, and perhaps that's as far as you can go right at this moment. Even though you know there's more there, you know that you're keeping some of it down. And to know those things may be helpful, too.
Yeah. You see, because I can talk about this leukemia and all this stuff and everything like that. Like it's, you know.
Fascinating. It's easier to talk about leukemia and the possibility of death and all that than it is to talk about all the hurt and awfulness that you've suffered.
Yeah. I want, you know. I have to stop. Okay?
Okay. All right. gone about as far as he can go.
Right.
Okay. I'll call it quits. Here is an armor-plated man. He's been sufficiently hurt that he hides his real feelings very deeply. But in this relationship, the armor begins to crack, just begins to crack. He says this is the first time that I've ever talked to anybody that I haven't really been in control. So in this understanding climate, he lets himself creep closer to the experiencing of his feelings. My image is that he's walking all around his own private slough of despond. We find the upper layer is anger, but further down in the slime are the unspeakable hurts and the feelings of being tromped on, defeated, and humiliated. He gets so close to experiencing some of this that his expressions become eloquent, nonverbal communication. Ooh, whew, oh, whew, I've got to stop. I feel that at that moment he put his foot into this dreaded pit, but then he has to draw back. I don't regret this. I regard it as demonstrating the wisdom of the client. He knows where the worst spots are in his experiencing. He knows what he can tolerate. He has to proceed at his own pace. Along the way, we see how powerful metaphor is in the deeper ranges of psychotherapy. Metaphor is so much more expressive than an intellectual description. The lump in his throat, the ability to speak from up here and not from down there, the goddamn tree stuck up his ass, the green slime that must be vomited, they all speak vividly of his feelings without naming those feelings. From an intellectual and theoretical point of view, there are bits that fascinate me. His introjected self is his cultured self that quotes credit to his race. It has little relation to the real feelings in which he could discover his real self. Another bit. He reports very convincingly that if he let his feelings all out, it would make him sick again. But hearing those exact words spoken acceptantly by me makes him realize it's a ridiculous view. To me, that's a fascinating interchange. There's another bit. When I give him full permission to be as angry as he wishes, that stops him completely. Then he can no longer avoid the fact that it's not his anger that he's afraid of, but the hurting and vulnerable part of him. Then there's the mourning, which accompanies unexpressed love, the love for his father-in-law, which he was never able to communicate. I think he gained from communicating it to me. Finally, he makes it very clear that for him there are many more frightening aspects of his life than the prospect of death. Somehow, this seems to contain a message for all of us. As for me, I felt very present in the relationship, an understanding companion on this trip of exploration which seemed so potentially dangerous to him. I think it's a good example of how I work with an articulate client.
Counsellors meet with and work with a whole range of people. Some present difficult situations which they are keen to talk about to someone who will listen to them and understand what they are going through. Counselling can be relatively straightforward, even though it may be full of pain and difficulty for the client. Others, for one reason or another, make the actual interview or parts of the interview difficult for the counsellor, perhaps ultimately because they are finding the situation very difficult themselves. But it is not always easy at the time for a counsellor to be so understanding of the awkward situation. We have to respond in some way to the request, the protest, or the information the client drops on us. Sometimes we respond well, sometimes not so well. And there are always those times when afterwards you say to yourself, if only I had said this, or if only I had said that. In this series of vignettes, we play out the role of counsellor and client in a number of awkward situations which we have come across in our practice. In every case, we try initially to make a response which is helpful, although it is probably not the most helpful response that could be given. So each scene is shown twice. The video is best stopped after the first shot of each scene, for you to discuss what you think about the first response given and how else you might respond. The scene is then shown a second time, but with an alternative response by the counsellor, one which, at least in our opinion, is better than the first. There is, of course, never just one correct way to respond to an awkward situation, but we think the second response is careful, as indeed the first may be, but also gets hold of the underlying issue which the client is trying to express. You two, in your discussions between the two versions, will come up with equally valid alternatives, which fully acknowledge the situation which the client brings or creates.
Well, I'm not stopping. I just came to tell you that I'm all right now. I made an appointment, I don't know how many weeks ago. I was due to see one of your counsellors. Your counsellor was then ill, which wasn't much use to me. I've got through this lot all on my own, thanks very much.
Yes, it does sound as though you've had a pretty bad time. Actually, our system isn't very good, really.
Well, I'm not stopping. I just came to tell you that I'm all right now. I made an appointment, I don't know how many weeks ago. I was due to see one of your counsellors. Your counsellor was then ill, which wasn't much use to me. I've got through this lot all on my own, thanks very much.
Well, you do seem to have been very much messed about by the system, and I'm sorry about that. And I don't think that I can make that better. But now that you are here, perhaps we could talk about some of the things that are troubling you.
I'm wondering whether it might help if next time you feel angry, you just wonder what actually triggered it off, that point.
Well, I suppose I could, but I don't think that's going to be very helpful.
Well, I can't force you to take my suggestions. I'm wondering whether it might help if next time you feel angry, you just wonder what actually triggered it off, that point.
Well, I suppose I could, but I don't think that's going to be very helpful.
It seems as though it's hard for you, perhaps, to think there actually might be a way forward.
It's time we finish for this week now.
You don't think I'm going to leave now? I mean, we haven't sorted anything out, really, have we? I'm not going to go.
Well, I'm afraid it's time to go. It's time we finish for this week now.
You don't think I'm going to leave now? I mean, we haven't sorted anything out, really, have we? I'm not going to go.
You won't go until what?
Well, I think that's time that we've finished for today.
Please, I really want some more time. Please, can we carry on longer?
Well, if it's just a minute. Well, I think that's time that we've finished for today.
Please, I really want some more time. Please, can we carry on longer?
I'm afraid we really must finish there, but if you could bring what you have here now to start the session next week.
Do you remember what you said to me last week? You were saying that it seemed really quite difficult for me being here. And you were wondering what would make it more comfortable for me. Well, I've been thinking about that ever such a lot this week. And I've thought really what would make it so much nicer and easier would be just to sort of go and have a drink in the pub together.
I think you misunderstood what I was saying last week.
Remember what you said to me last week? You were saying that it seemed really quite difficult for me being here. And you were wondering what would make it more comfortable for me. Well, I've been thinking about that ever such a lot this week. And I've thought really what would make it so much nicer and easier would be just to sort of go and have a drink in the pub together.
I think that you're saying you're still really very uncomfortable here, and that's perhaps something that we need to look at.
Ever so sorry to come here and bother you. I know you're very, very busy and you've got so many people to see who I know are far, far worse off than me, but please, could you spend just a few minutes talking to me?
You're quite right, of course, we are under a great deal of pressure, but it is a chance today to assess the situation, and I guess if it feels really urgent, then we'll be able to see you next week.
Ever so sorry to come here and bother you. I know you're very, very busy and you've got so many people to see who I know are far, far worse off than me, but please, could you spend just a few minutes talking to me?
I guess it's very hard for you to feel that anyone can really value you.
Well, Jill, I think we have to stop there. I'll see you again next week.
I don't know if you will, actually. I just feel like throwing myself under a bus now.
Well, would you like a few more minutes just to talk about that situation? Well, Jill, I think we have to stop there. I'll see you again next week.
I don't know if you will, actually. I just feel like throwing myself under a bus now.
I guess that finishing at that point makes you feel pretty angry with me. But I hope I'll see you next week.
Seem to be having problems getting started today, don't we? Has it been a really bad week? I'm wondering whether you'd like me to say something, or whether you're having some problems actually getting started today.
You know when I told you several weeks ago about, I don't know, I felt so angry that that I could have, I just felt like hurting someone. Well, I'm starting to have those feelings towards you now.
Well, I wonder if you're really having those sort of feelings about me, whether it might be better perhaps for you to see one of my male colleagues.
You know when I told you several weeks ago about, I don't know, I felt so angry that that I could have, I just felt like hurting someone. Well, I'm starting to have those feelings towards you now.
I think if you're having those sort of feelings, that it's very important that we talk about them here together and try and sort out what they're about.
I feel so incredibly upset and so unhappy. There's only one thing that I know will make me feel better, and that's if you will hold me very tight.
Would you like to hold my hand?
I feel so incredibly upset and so unhappy. There's only one thing that I know will make me feel better, and that's if you will hold me very tight.
It sounds as if you're terribly raw and jagged and tangled inside, and that what you desperately need and want is someone who can somehow come in there and hold you really tightly and make you feel secure.
Well, it's time for us to end today.
But how am I going to cope over the next few days?
Well, I can try and fit you in tomorrow, if that's any good. Well, it's time for us to end today.
But how am I going to cope over the next few days?
I guess you're taking away an awful lot with you, and that must feel quite hard. Perhaps you can feel you can leave a little bit of it here with me until we meet next week.
Tell you the truth, I'm not absolutely sure what I'm doing here. I mean, I've been told that you're one of these feminist therapists, and well, personally, I mean, I'm a social worker and I was trained in behaviour therapy, and I don't really hold much by this academic outlook at all.
I wonder if in that case you'd perhaps like me to refer you to one of my behavioural colleagues.
Tell you the truth, I'm not absolutely sure what I'm doing here. I mean, I've been told that you're one of these feminist therapists, and, well, personally, you know, I mean, I'm a social worker and I was trained in behaviour therapy, and I don't really hold much by this academic outlook at all.
But you've still come to see me. So I wonder if you could just tell me a little bit more about what has brought you to see me.